in this video, I know it sounds crazy, but you don't need an agent to have an amazing, successful, remarkable career in broadcast TV news. My name is Josh Helmuth. I'm an anchor for Good Morning Colorado. Thank you so much for watching. Real quick, please like, please subscribe below, comment. Would love to hear from you. Okay, I get some questions. I see my colleagues, some friends, some younger people in the industry talk about agents. All right, do I get an agent? Who do I reach out to? How does it work? In my opinion, you do not, I promise you, you do not need an agent to have a successful career, a very successful career in TV news. All right? Plenty of reasons why. All right, first, let me tell you why. Where do I start? Oh my goodness. Okay, I guess I'll start by my story. I get it. You're in broadcast news. You don't network very well. Maybe you're the first person in your family, your circle to do something like this. I get it. My dad was raised Amish. He ran away. He works in cabinetry and countertops. My mom's a dog groomer for a living. No one in my family knows much about TV broadcast news, and that's okay. It's not a problem, not a big deal at all, but it helps if you know someone in the business, right? If you know the ins and outs. So it's tough, it's intimidating, it can be very scary, especially when you're trying to work up the market ladder and get to that dream job you've always wanted, maybe get to the network level someday. I promise you though, you don't need an agent taking anywhere from 7 to 10% of your paycheck in order to do it. I'm in Bakersfield, California. I left the business for 4 years, I should say, to get back in the business. This is back in 2013. I take a job in Bakersfield, California. I didn't have an agent getting that job, but I felt like to make that big jump, I needed one. I was very intimidated. I didn't know how it worked. So I reached out to a ton of agencies, no bites, except for one. Actually, there were a couple agents who were interested, but I went with one out of New York City, okay? She was great. Got me my job at KSHB in Kansas City. Loved Kansas City. We fell in love with Kansas City. Paul Rudd, am I right?
Hey, party at my mom's, man. She's out of town. I got a keg. It's gonna be sweet.
Royals. Patrick Mahomes. Hello.
That is awesome.
Kansas City is a hidden gem, I'm telling you. We love Kansas City. 6 months later, that agent from that agency leaves. I get a new agent. Okay, no big deal, right? About a year later, that agent leaves. So now within 2 years, I'm on my third agent at this agency. But I want to make things clear. There are some rock star agents out there. This isn't to share some kind of grievance towards a specific agency. But it got to a point where I put together my own reel, almost got a job in a top 20 market by myself, ended up taking a different job in St. Louis as a sports anchor with my own reel, my own interviewing. Really, the agent at this point is just looking over my contract. So it gets to a point where, okay, I'm putting together my own reel, I'm networking, I'm doing everything myself. I'm really paying this person 8%, guys, of what I make just to look over the final details of my contract, of which nothing really changed. So I did a little research and I found this book that I'm not being paid to promote, but I promise you it helped me get my dream job here in Colorado. It's called The 2-Hour Job Search. It was written by a professor at Duke. It goes in great detail exactly how to craft emails, how to do phone calls, how to do networking in cities you've never been to, with people you never met. And I promise you, it works. It's fantastic. Okay, so if you can put together your own reel, which I highly recommend you do, it's very easy to do. There's a link to that in the description. I did a video on how to put together a rock star, amazing TV news reel that'll impress news directors. Link to that below and up in the card right here. Put together your reel, you can network. Well, now you just need someone to look over your contract. Believe it or not, there are attorneys out there who may be experts in entertainment law who can look over your contract for a one-time fee. Now, if you can just pay someone to look over your contract to make sure it's a good deal, who has experience in TV and entertainment, why not pay them a one-time fee and be done with it, rather than pay someone 8% of what you make, 9%, sometimes 10% of what you make for the rest of your career or the rest of your position for that contract. I think that's crazy. I don't think that's the way to go. Okay, arguments for an agent. Okay, Josh, I have a rock star agent to give me tons of feedback, They do my reel for me. They network for me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have got this job. I would say if you want to put the work in yourself, it's not that hard. It's worth that 8% a year. Some agents will say, well, hey, we'll give you great feedback. We will tell you what you need to do, how to look, how to report, how to anchor to launch your career, to help you make that big jump. I promise you, no one, and there are some really great agents out there who used to be in our business. I'm sure they know what they're talking about. But that being said, you don't need to pay them 8, 9, 10% of your paycheck to get that kind of feedback. Reach out to people at your station. Join the Storytellers group on Facebook if you haven't already. Reach out. Al Tompkins is a professor at Pointer who is an amazing storyteller. Mike Bush, Boyd Hoopert. Watch them on YouTube. But reach out to people that you know. Maybe do some cold calling. Use that book I just told you about, the 2-hour job search, and use those methods to reach out to people you don't know, who you respect. I guarantee you'll get some great feedback that can be career changing, and you don't need to pay 8, 9, 10% of your paycheck, thousands and thousands of dollars in order to get it. But my point is, reach out to people in the industry you respect. I think you might be pleasantly surprised how many people would be willing to help because they've been in your shoes. I promise you, I've reached out to people who have been at networks, who have won countless Emmys and Murrows, and I just relish any feedback they can give me. So as far as feedback goes, not hard to get. You don't have to pay someone 8% of your paycheck to get great career-changing feedback, okay? Another argument, Josh, but this agent said they could promise me more money. They can negotiate for me. And my experience, and the experience I've seen with my colleagues over my 10 plus years in this business, most of the time for a certain position, that news director is really tied to a very specific budget in mind. That money is already set. They usually can't go over it. In a very rare circumstance, the only way they can negotiate at all is if you have something called leverage, all right? And if you have leverage, well, that means you may have more than one opportunity available to you. But if you're going to use leverage, be willing to walk away from opportunity A for opportunity B if opportunity A doesn't match what you're looking for. You can't bluff in reality. You gotta make sure that leverage is real and you're willing to walk away from something. So really, most of the time, and what I've experienced, and again with my colleagues, negotiating for a higher salary, extremely rare, unless you have that leverage. And I get it, it's intimidating at first. You don't know anyone, you don't know how to network, you don't know how to reach out to a news director. Look up this book, 2-Hour Job Search. I promise you, it's a game changer. I'm not being paid to promote it. It helped me get my dream job here in Colorado. I also knew how to put together a great reel, get the news director's attention, in some cases the general manager's attention. But I promise you, you can do it yourself. You don't need to pay someone 8, 9, 10% of what you make. Think about it. If you're paying someone just 8% a year, let's say you're making $40,000 a year, which may be about average for a TV news reporter. But let's say you're making 40 grand a year, 8%. That's $6,400 over 2 years. If you're making 50 grand, that's another 8 grand. Okay, you're talking the cost of a used car for someone to look over your contract. Because you can make your own reel. I promise you. You can network yourself. You can reach out to news directors. You can get that job you want in a top market. You don't need to pay someone thousands and thousands of dollars to do it for you. So again, and there are amazing agents out there. So when do you get an agent? Because in my opinion, you don't need an agent until you do. In my opinion, reach out, find representation when you're ready to jump to that big network level, all right? Once you've reached a point in your career where you've mastered your craft, you've been in this business a long time, you're ready to make that big jump. In my opinion, that's when it's worth having representation, because it's really hard to know. Networks don't have news directors. They have vice presidents of talent, certain executive producers making hiring decisions. It's hard to know, unless you know someone, who's making the final decisions on the hiring process and exactly what kind of talent they're looking for. So at that point, find representation, someone you trust, someone who really believes in you. And it doesn't help if you find someone who's also willing to be understandable. What do I mean by that? I mean, I have a friend at ESPN who's been there a long time. He says his agent let him out of his contract after being at ESPN for several years. He says, listen, you've been here a long time. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to go any higher than this. Why are you still paying me? I'm not doing anything for you. He let him walk out of his contract. That may be extremely rare in this business. I'm honestly not so sure. But it's helpful if maybe you can work in that kind of negotiation. If you can, say, hey, if I'm at a certain network for X number of years, can we get out of my contract? I'll readdress or come back to you if we have renegotiations for new contracts. Maybe that's an option for you. And again, there are attorneys out there who specifically work in entertainment law who you can pay a one-time fee and they'll look over your contract for you, make sure it's all up to snuff. Is that the right term? Make sure it's all good to go. And you're only paying them one time instead of thousands and thousands of dollars every single year. And if you want an agent right now, maybe you find someone, maybe an agent contacts you and they believe in you and they're great, maybe negotiate with them. Maybe say, hey, can I pay you 1, 2, 3, 4% now, and then once I make it to network, then I'll pay you the full 8, 9, 10%. When I had an agent, I paid them 8%. I'm not sure what the industry standard really is. I've seen anywhere from 6 to 10%, but see if you can negotiate with them based on your market level or your network level. That would make it a little more reasonable. But again, in my opinion, just in my opinion, don't reach out for representation until you're ready to make that big jump to the network. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe below. Please comment below. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, we'd love to help. Maybe I can help connect you to people who'd be willing to give you some feedback. But again, you don't need to pay thousands of dollars to someone you hardly know to look over your contract once every 2 or 3 years. Because in reality, if you're willing to put in the work, and believe me, there are links below again to make your own reel, how to network, you can do this. News directors will respect you possibly even more for doing it yourself. I promise you it'll save you a ton of money and you'll still have that successful career you've always dreamed of. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, let's lift each other up. Let's be atypical.